You're listening to the Remain in the Race podcast, brought to you by Rocket Racing, with your hosts, Mitch Reynolds, Daniel Hillian, and Ryan Havens, where you're going to hear all things racing, outdoors, family, and life, where all glory being given to the one who created us.
You're listening to Remain in the Race podcast. This is episode 16, but it is episode 1 of season 2. It's January 1st, 2023. We're kicking off the new year the best way I know how. Some of my best friends. Number one, Mitch Reynolds. How we doing, Rocket?
We're great. We're awake, alive, and it's a new year, boys. 2023.
It's a new year, and that's right. You heard Mitch say boys, because also we are back in the Frog Studios. Ryne Havens, how we doing this morning?
What's up?
Ryne is back. We're going to kick off this new year the best way we know how, and so we're starting it off with a podcast. So hope each and every one of you listeners out there had a great Christmas. Hope you survived New Year's. My wife posted on Facebook that I did not. I didn't even see it come in. I was asleep on the couch. And so, but hey, man, we're going to kick off, the first part of the episode, talking about, well, I don't know if we'll talk about it first, but here's kind of where we're going in this episode is kind of what our focus is for 23. What can we do to make, just the world a better place? We're also going to recap 2022 in our first season of the podcast and have some laughs there. And then we're going to jump into, we've got some sponsors we want to mention and highlight. For example, 88 Live to Ride. We'll talk about them here in a little bit. We want to give them a shout out for jumping on board with us this year. RJR, Ryland Johnson Racing. He's going to be one of our key guys helping us this season. And also Chief Motorsports. And so we'll dive into them and give them a special place and some highlights. But, man, let's just start it off here at the top, Mitch. Man, what a season, what a year we've had, going from hey man, let's start a podcast to we've got a season under our belts.
That's right. The rookie season is in our rear view. We're on to the sophomore season of figuring this thing out, having a good time, just trying to remain in the race. And when we say remain in the race, we know that spiritual walk of working our relationship with Christ and with one another. But two, staying diligent to this podcast and trying to bring the listeners some cool content. I put out a post there online. Looks like people want quite a few more interviews. It was a well-balanced survey. People were kind of liking a little bit of everything that we're doing, but surveys were definitely the most common. Or surveys. Is that what I said? I meant interviews. Yeah, interviews. But the cool thing is, guys, we got interviews lined up about every other week. So excited for this new season and dropping an episode every other Tuesday. And we're going to have at least one guest on a month. So I'm really looking forward to, I really enjoyed that this past year, talking to CJ and talking to Dylan and Eric and Chucky. It was a good time to just hear people's backstory and then even get a little insight into their technique and what makes them tick. It was a good time.
Yeah, man, that was so much fun. And, for me, you're not that far removed from the race scene in the community, Mitch. And for me, man, it's been a long time since I've been at that level of, EDT racing. We've done some, kind of here and there, hit and miss, throughout the years. But the last time that I really was into it would have been, I was in like high school, so like 07, so it's been a while. And man, that was the thing for me as I kind of look back on the 2022 season. Man, I got back into it. We've got plans for this upcoming year. For me personally, I'll be running our local cross country series. That's just a real cool opportunity that I get to go with Papa Bear and go to several races and reconnect with some old friends and kind of help keep me in shape, get me some goals there. But also, we're going to go to more races. We went to 2 last year. Kind of, I know my plan is to go to the Black Ankle and Owasso on the NE EDT series, and then here this coming weekend. I think the Midwest Series we've got some of their dates, but where we're going and whatnot, they'll kind of get all that information out there and plan on hitting 2 of their races as well. And so we got a little something up our sleeve. We're going to share that in the upcoming episodes about why we picked those, the 4 races we did, why we picked them, and what's going to be happening at those specific races. So stay tuned for the upcoming episodes of what's happening there. But I'm really, really excited for this year and to get going in the series, and kind of like everybody else. You mentioned it before we hit record, Mitch, that a lot of guys this time of the year are waiting on parts, and they've got maybe A-arms or a rolling chassis and no motor, or if they've got a motor and they're waiting on shocks or no tire. It's just kind of funny seeing guys' pictures and stuff, like people post, hey, getting closer, I'm in that same boat. I am also waiting on shocks and A-arms. So, but yeah, that's kind of my goal. And I'm 22 is just a rocket for me, and an awesome time, and looking forward to more gooder and better here in 23.
Gooder and better.
That's right.
Hey guys. So, just what did you do in 22? What did you do to really try to improve your game or improve yourself in 22?
Go for it, Ryne. Hit us with it.
And I just tried to hang out more, hang out with you guys as much as I could. Life's busy, but tried to do that. Tried to be more involved in, with the kids, doing stuff together. And we'd always talk about getting some one wheels.
Yeah.
So we picked up some of them, and I've got started doing that or whatever. But anyways, that's about it, man. Just hanging out.
I was telling Ryan as we were walking up here to the Frog, I said one of the things that brought me a lot of energy here this past season as the podcast was our Bible study, and just really kind of digging into the meat and potatoes of the book of John and being able to share that. And a lot of it, it's things I've known and heard, but even in like our Bible study for this week, there was a few things I was like, I've heard this story so many times, and I just kind of brush over it. I just kind of put it as a blanket, hey, Jesus moved in this way, and move on to the next thing. Where as I get older, and specifically with our podcast, I've had to go back to some of those, just kind of painting with a broad brush pictures, and really looked at the details, kind of like you miss the tree for the forest, or whatever that saying is, or miss the forest for the trees, or something like that. And that's kind of me, as I'm paying attention more to the details and the little things that Scripture presents to us. And so I hope for me to keep that ball rolling throughout this year. And I don't know, one of the things as I get older, I was talking to went on a little deer hunt yesterday with my cousins, and had a great time. It's something we do every year. And we were talking about something, and I said, one of the things that I feel like as I get older, like I feel like I'm getting a little more understanding of people's situations, and being a little more compassionate. So I hope I can keep trending in that direction, because there's sometimes you just go, well, that person's mean, and move on. That person's just kind of hateful, and move on. But to get a little older, I'm like, why? What has happened in life that's caused them, and how can I, maybe introduce Jesus to them, or paint them a picture of Jesus? Like, hey, I know this is maybe how it started, but this is how it could end, with Christ number one in your life. And so anyways, I'm excited. I'm never not excited, I don't guess, but I'm looking forward to this season.
To you're always excited. If anything, we got to calm Super D down.
Yeah,
I like the direction that both of you guys went. Ryan's talking about spend more time with the kids and spend more time doing stuff with them, and you're talking about other people. Well, mine goes right along with that, guys. A little less me and a little more we. Is really where my focus has been. I've lived a lot of my life for me. And we set goals for me. I want to make me better. I want to make me healthier, me stronger, me. And it's okay to focus on yourself some, but you're forfeiting the blessing there is when you don't spend the we time, because that's what Jesus told us to do. He said not only love him, but to love others too. So the more you spend time with us, and loving on other people, man, there's blessing not only for you, but for them. And it's a domino effect. It affects so many others. So that was a focus of mine in 22. It continues to be a focus of mine in 23 is, to actually care about people. It's inherent that we're going to take care of us. We're going to protect us. We're going to do stuff for us.
Right.
But to focus on, what you do and how that impacts others, man. And that's really, as we got to go back racing, that was our focus too. Like, let's go there, let's hang out with people, let's encourage people, let's have Moto Church. We really want it to, if you haven't made those steps in life, you need to focus on the we's around you. God placed you in a circle for a reason and influence others for his love and for his impact. So guys, I kind of got a little serious there, but I think it's good to really have your head wrapped around what we should be working on. So with that, what is your personal focus for this year?
So I'll start off, man. Like I said, for me, I'm really wanting to dive more off into our local little cross country series here. It's good to reconnect with some. When we stepped away from EDT racing, that was kind of the next best thing for us, and really kind of fell in love with the woods. And so if you think back a couple episodes, went to Ironman and ended up having a rear axle carrier kind of a part fail that it's like, how in the world did that specific anyway? So I want to race our local cross country series this year, because I want to get redemption on Ironman. I at least want to make the whole race. I don't have to do well, but I made it 16 minutes last time.
Yeah. So you made like a quarter of a lap.
Quarter of a lap.
So, yep. Hey, you don't have to set your bar too high.
That's right. I did that on purpose. But that's one of the things I know I've got. This summer is going to be, nutso just with my ministry and church and with our students there. Got a really big event coming up, and I'm really excited for what God is. It's not that I hope that He'll do things there. It's like I know what's going to happen because I've seen it happen in the years past, and I know He'll do it again. And so I'm really looking forward to that. And then also, getting into the EDT world. I've kind of got my hands in a few things. Can't share a whole lot right now. I can as we get along. You guys know, but the rest of the podcast world, we'll get there when it's time. Man,
he likes to keep stuff up his sleeve. We've heard that before about his duck hunting hole.
Right.
Super D's always got something up his sleeve, so I'm gonna start checking his sleeves before he comes in.
That's fine. I may just, as the weather warms up, I may just start going sleeveless. You're gonna.
Oh, nice.
There you go. Yeah. But I'm also excited. This since the last couple episodes, Emily and I have sold a house and bought another one and doing a little remodel, and our little side hustle business has got some opportunities, and so we got a lot happening in 23. And so I just, it's nothing that I've done or she's done or you knuckleheads done. It's just, man, God has really, 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 really blessed us, and I want to make sure that I don't ever get in the way of that and think for a second that, boy, look what I did. Look what, like you're saying, Mitch, it was never me, it's we, and I'm married to the most wonderful woman on the planet, and we're a great team, and I'm excited for where her career is going and trying to raise our two little wild banshees and point them in the right direction, so that's that would be my multi-focus for this upcoming year.
Super D's got a lot of focuses. And the more that you know about Super D, he goes a lot of directions. So that makes sense. What about you?
Yeah, I got a couple things. So building off kind of what I said earlier about, just hanging out and whatnot. So I guess for this year, I want to try to focus more on kind of having a day-to-day focus, and not be looking too far. Because I get caught up a lot of times in I'm thinking what I need to be doing 3 or 4 days from now, and stresses me out. And before I know it, I really want to focus on being, where God has me each day.
Yeah.
Because I've never done a good job at that.
That'll preach.
Feel like I'd be a lot happier person. Just being in the moment. Wherever that is. So
we have been cranky lately, so that makes a lot of sense.
And so it's. But anyway, so But then I know I mentioned it once, but I don't want to say obsessed because that seemed, but I'm really pumped about the one wheel stuff, and so that's one thing this year that I want to. Surprisingly, I didn't. I'll be honest with you, and it's nothing I wouldn't say in front of Honey or Axel. Me and Axel talked, and I said, man, I'm pretty stressed that I don't know if she'll be able to get it, if she'll get mad at herself or whatever. But man, we went out to the gym parking lot and practiced for several hours. And anyways, but Conway having that nice trail and everything, we were able to kind of ride a little ways and do all that. So that's one thing I really want to get into this year, and it's going to take a lot of practice, but eventually want to learn how to go off road and all that kind of stuff. But so that's kind of just some outdoor goals, of course, being in the gym and everything with old Mitch. We got to get Daniel to meet us up in there.
If you two knuckleheads would go to the gym that's close to my house, I'd go. I mean, that's part of my focus, like you say, like getting ready for the season, like starting to eat better, starting to all those things. But you guys drive like 900 miles to go to the gym, and I'm like, there's 12 right here. Like, so we could throw a rock and hit one.
We got to meet Super D where he's at. He can't. He can't go out of his way now.
Thank you. Meet my needs.
Make sure you wear sleeves to the gym so we can check those two there.
That's right.
Hey, maybe we can get Mr. Aaron Medlin is pretty good on a one wheel.
That's
what I was thinking.
I would like to meet some, because I know you guys being right up the alley of the racing world. Like, I've got to meet some.
Brad Riley, Aaron Medlin, and Tanner Terry. At every race, they're just cruising around on one wheels.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
they're one wheelers.
You said you. So I didn't bring it up here, but anyways, but I don't know the sizes on the tires and everything, but first thing I think of is like 90 mods, because that's what size.
Sure enough.
Yep.
Go ahead. You threw the question to us, Mitch. I'll throw it back to you. Go ahead.
Oh, hey, I was going to move on to the next question.
Okay.
You want me to answer that one?
Sure,
What's my focus for this year?
You do what you want.
Hey, it's my focus is kind of the same. A little less me and a little more we.
Right.
That's what, take it a day at a time, like Ryan said. Sometimes with the responsibilities we have, it can be, a little bit discouraging, and to think, hey, I got to prepare for this and do that and be dad and so on and so forth. But just pouring into my kids, making sure that I instill a good habit with them. What are the things I try to do daily? I try to spend time in prayer daily. I try to read the word. If that's on YouVersion, doing a devotion, that's easy to do. Listening to somebody like Andy Stanley or Jordan Bowen or some of these preachers that I really like to listen to. I mean, you have some windshield time, so why not invest that stuff in time? Invest your time in something that's going to make a difference, but not only for you, but for those around you. So it kind of leads into the next question: what can we do to make the world a better place? Not just my world, not just the areas I walk in, but what can I do, to make a difference around the world? What y'all think?
Well, I think one of the things for us is, with this little podcast we got going on, we're able to reach out. Like, I just think of, like Dylan, he's up there in Indiana. We know he's a listener. We'll get text and comments for him, and David Wortham, at Chief Motorsports, him a little plug, shameless plug. But that's but with the podcast, like, we're able to reach more than just our local churches or our families or just our little friend group. We're able to reach more into across state lines, and I think that is so cool. We're just a couple guys sitting around some microphones and the frog, that we're able to do that, and just to share what's going on in our lives. We'll get text and messages, and hear from other people's lives. And then when we get to the race, you just jump right back in, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's, you already know what's going on because, those guys have heard us talking, and we've kind of text back and forth. But I just love that with our podcast, we're able to, I guess we have a wider net, is what I'm trying to say, to share the gospel, and just to, dig more, like for me, dig more into God's word and take it, piece by piece, instead of just big, a parable at a time or a story at a time, go, moment by moment through that story, and we're able to share that with, everyone that listens. So I love that. That's what I love about the podcast.
Right, and we've told people before, and people do reach out. Don't hesitate to reach out to us on social media, whatever. You have some feedback for us via the podcast that you want to talk about, or maybe it's your Christian walk. Maybe you're not a Christian. You're like, how do I become a Christian? Maybe you've kind of went carnal in your walk with Christ, and you want to renew that. Well, what steps have us guys taken in the room here? Because our walks haven't always been great. I mean, I've struggled my walk before, but I'd be more than happy to just guide you along the way. And what I do on a day-to-day basis that has huge implications for me in my walk in life. One thing we tossed around is all of us guys are on YouVersion. We do devotionals daily. If you want to follow us on there and see what devotions we're doing, so that kind of gives you guidance in where you could go, and then you could give us comments or feedback. We'd be willing to do studies with you on there. Whatever, we're kind of open. We want to impact your world. That doesn't have to be necessarily in Central Arkansas. If it is, good. We'll try to affect that in any positive way we can. But wherever you're at in the United States, wherever you're at in the world, we want to help you in not just your daily walk in life, but in that spiritual walk, because we know that is the most important. And as each of us guys in this room walk in that and experience that, we know that, hey man, there's trials, there's some tough times, but the other side of it is so much greater. I mean, and the blessings are so much greater. The low times are not near as low. You will never regret walking with Christ and walking with your brothers and sisters in Christ.
Love it. I love it. Sorry, I thought you were going to say more there, but you got a big old drink. But
I felt like I'd really spilled it there, and I was like, I got to wet the whistle again.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm done throwing it to whoever else wants to talk.
I think a lot about what Daniel says about community, and how it, I think about the roller coaster, of my spiritual walk. Not that the lows are that low and the highs are that, it's just community part every time. I think it's so cool because God knows where we're at. A little bit of encouragement. It might just be one of you guys have thrown out a text message. Needed that, So anyway, so I was just kind of backing up what you're saying about however it would be for some.
I think,
let's see.
Just kind of piggybacking off what you're saying, Ryan, I think this would be a good question just to throw out there to listeners. I think one step you could do to impact the world around you, if somebody comes to your mind, just reach out to them, give them a phone call, give them a text message. There's a reason why God's brought them to your mind. So just being more diligent in doing that. Not only us three guys here in the room, we're trying to challenge all the listeners to do the same. Like just kind of check your gut and say, hey, what really matters to me? And I want to make steps in doing things that really matter to me this year in 2023.
Love it.
Guys, y'all want to jump over into the EDT world now? Let's talk a little bit of 22 EDT racing, kind of highlight some cool things we saw there, and we can throw a little bit of tidbit on what we're prepping for 2023. What do you think?
Absolutely, and I'll kick it off from me. I went back to the races, and I can remember it just like it was yesterday, right before 4th of July, loaded up. It was me, Mitch, our rider, and Dad cruising up to Soxton Sandbox, and I was just so excited just to go back to the races. All the memories of traveling when I was younger with my dad and my brother and several of our friends and Mom. If we had some place that had because we didn't have a motorhome or anything like that, but we didn't have that kind of money, y'all crazy. But if there was running water and a flushy toilet, then Mom would go too. That was her requirements. So this was before the days of toy haulers and all that other stuff. But man, EDT Midwest Series 22 for me is I got back in the game and really had a lot of fun there at Soxton. Got to meet so many people. Even got to to meet CJ Robson, our 22 Midwest Series champion, and it was cool to get to do a little interview with him in our previous podcast and kind of catch up with him, kind of get his plans for 23. But man, I'm glad that I was able to get back into it and got plans to do more this year. So all the just friends and different things that we've got to meet, and lots of new friends on social media and different things like that to connect with. And so, man, I'm looking forward to going back to catch up with all those people I met and meet some new people too.
That was cool. One thing that kind of rung out or stands out in my mind for 22 is I missed the 21 season of going to the racetrack, but man, just the vibes around the racetrack. Like, the EDT world is alive and kicking, and despite inflation and the high cost and hard to get parts, the numbers at the races are great. And not just the number of racers there, but the quality. Like, the vibes are just positive. People are having a great time in the pits. Their racing is good on the track. Just, man, the family atmosphere of the EDT world, it's super encouraging, and it lets me know why I have a passion for this sport. That was very awesome to see. You're talking about meeting all these people, and it's not, I guess, that the vibes have been bad in the past, but it just rung out to me like 22, everybody has come together, and they're like, man, times might be a little tougher financially and getting parts and making racing happen, but we're going to get out here and have a good time and do the thing. And that's what people are doing. So I'm looking forward to more of that in 23 as well.
Yeah, buddy. I was, like I said, it was just exciting to go back to smell race fuel in jugs and smell it burning and two strokes popping off all over the place. I was like, oh yeah.
And to learn that there was more than C12 in the world.
Yeah.
That there are new fuels out there.
Yeah. I thought it was Turbo Blue and C12, and that was all there was. But man, there's all kinds of stuff out there.
Hey, I want to highlight just a few of the champions. The NEDT had their banquet not too long ago. We talked that Brad Riley wins the Pro Championship again, so he's the Pro Champ again there. The Amateur Rider of the Year is Tanner Terry. We've highlighted him a few times on here. He is rolling, doing awesome, well-deserving of that award. The People's Choice Pro Rider of the Year would be Aaron Medlin. We know he was keeping Brad honest all year, and he was rolling out there. And the Amateur Riders Cup goes to Cody Houghton, so we've mentioned him as well. I've seen some builds recently of him on some Yamahas. Now, I know he's racing some motocross nationals. We mentioned that, but I wonder if we're going to see him on the Yamaha in TT World too. Kind of piecing things together. Mr. Daryl Rath's put some stuff out there of building a lot of Yamaha parts as well, which he's been on a Yamaha, but does that mean that we're seeing a major shift to Yamaha? We saw two guys make the move last year, Chucky Creech and Brad Riley, but how many more Yamahas are we going to see this year?
Yeah, I just pulled up here and looking at a couple of red bumpers with a number 9 on them on social media, and those are definitely not Hondas. Now let's see, in the background, there's Yamaha plastic on the also some Honda plastic.
Now
so
that's at TDR.
Yeah.
That's at Tim Detling's shop,
yeah.
Which, I mean, they've gone primarily Yamaha with all the motocross stuff, and Mr. Tim Detling being a former pro EDT racer as well. It's cool to see his business thriving and doing awesome. He teams up with he has some Walsh stuff and does some Jody stuff as well, but he's got a really cool team going. But I'm just looking forward to seeing the number of Yamahas and maybe with what we have coming up, maybe we get to experience the Yamaha a little more. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. Maybe that'll be cool.
Yeah, that's one of the things that also for 23 I'm excited about is. In the NET world, you just mentioned those guys, and you mentioned Tanner Terry in the award that he was voted on there by all the series. So proud of my son there for that, getting that award. And then I believe my other son, Mr. Joey Mickley, was amateur. I was trying to scroll through here. I know he got something.
I'm pretty sure he might have earned that Amateur Rider of the Year, which is a people's the riders vote on that. People vote on that. Whereas the Riders Cup is more of kind of like points accumulated and things that a person has earned on the track. And we know that Cody Houghton had the perfect season, won every heat race, won every main event. So he's well deserving of that Riders Cup. And, we've mentioned CJ Robson winning the Midwest EDT. Their banquet is coming up this next weekend. So we can kind of highlight some of that on the next pod, guys. Let's talk a little bit about the schedule coming up. Something really cool coming up in the EDT world, Budds Creek EDT. So Budds Creek EDT will take place on the same weekend as the ATV MX National. So the ATV MX National on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The NEEDT will take place Saturday night it's based on a dirt car track. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's going to be sweet.
We'll see if some motocross guys jump over and try to race some EDT that night. If they get in the hobby class or what happens. But that is really, really cool. I was excited to see that come down the pipe.
Well, I had seen that you had put that in our show notes, and I was like, oh, it's Budds Creek. But I didn't realize that they were double dipping, dude. That is awesome.
Yeah, so I guess they did some coordinating together there, and Mr. Sean Robinson made it happen there. But that will take place June 17th. They will kick off their series May 6th at Black Ankle, which I think Mr. Super D will be going to Black Ankle. TBD with me, but right. I'm going to be making some races as well.
Oh yeah.
But they will also be welcoming Birch Creek, Virginia back on their schedule. I know you and I got to race there back in our previous lives and our younger lives, if you will. They will, of course, make their trip back to Pine Lake in July. In August, they will be going to Dresden, Ohio, which is a repeat as well in the series. And then they'll have a double header in September at Owasso, Michigan, and you will be attending that one as well. They'll wrap up at the end of September at Pine Lake. So a really, really awesome series there. And the Midwest has released their dates, but has not released their tracks yet. But they'll be racing one a month starting in April. So they'll race April 29th and 30th, May 27th, 28th, June 10th, 11th, July 1st and 2nd, August 5th and 6th, and September 9th and 10th. So you can go ahead and start making your plans of when you need to be off work and making those races happen. Everyone should be able to find a race to make it out to, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Just rewind here a little bit. Joey Mickley was the most improved rider voted upon by the rider. So want to make sure I get that right. So congratulations to my man. I know he's down at Decker Training Facility getting all ready to go he's going to race motocross and some EDT this year. So excited for him, see what he can do.
Hey, that's one thing, that CJ mentioned is cross-training and riding motocross and improving his TT game there. I think we're starting to see a little bit of a theme. Yeah. We know that Brad Riley is an excellent motocross racer and has been dominating the EDT world. So you motocrossers out there, hey, you probably got the skill to try out some EDT. So Budds Creek would be an easy place to try to come up with a sway bar, some tires, and test out some TT racing for sure.
But at the same time, hey, TT guys, find you some longer shocks, maybe some stiffer shocks, and get out there on that motocross track.
Maybe just a whole nother bike.
Yeah.
Maybe get with Mr. Tim Detling at TDR, see if they've got a bike you could rent or test out Friday practice. Hey, that would be an opportunity rather than just racing. Get out on Friday practice.
Yeah, for sure.
And check out what it's like. Just don't break your body down too much because you want to be able to compete on Saturday for the series. Anyway, it's gonna be a fun season, and I am really, really looking forward to it.
So one of the things that CJ brought up about the Midwest series and the EDT series is we know Brad's going to defend that title for 23, and we kind of made some predictions in a previous podcast of what we think will happen in that NE series. But CJ mentioned he's going to be riding both. Now he's ridden multiple series for a couple seasons. But the Casey Racing team, they're going to have him a machine, correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, for the NEDT series to race that, but he's also going to defend his title on the Midwest series. Is that correct?
That is what I heard the man say.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I was right there. So, man, that's going to be really, really exciting. As Aaron, he's just keeps getting faster and faster and faster in that NE series, and CJ coming back in there. And man, there's a lot of, like you said, Mitch, you hit the nail on the head there, though. There is a lot of really, really, really good riders, a lot of good riders, coming up into the class. We even mentioned, like in the Midwest series, I'm thinking of Pro-Am guy, Dagan Crouch. He's going to move up and run something. So that'll be exciting to see what him and the whole Crouch family, and I know he's connected really close to the Keisters, see what their program looks like for this upcoming season. So
it'll be top of the line, I can assure
absolutely.
you. His dad doesn't cut any corners, and he's got excellent racecraft. But they always are on tip-top machines. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Dagan has to offer this year for sure.
Absolutely, and it's going to be good. I am pumped up. I'm excited. Good things happening.
Hey,
go ahead.
I'm ready to get into talking about 88 Live to Ride, if that's cool with you all.
I was about to say, hey, let's transition and let's hit some of the. We want to give a special attention to the people that support us, so that you can support them, so that they can support us, and so the wheel can keep turning. So hit us with it, man.
So our title sponsor this year will be 88 Live to Ride Inc. Foundation. They're a nonprofit that's formed by Miss Debbie Bartosik, a lady who is near and dear to my heart. She is my second mother from PA, and really, really thankful for her stepping on board. Man, this foundation is awesome, guys. She started it back right after her son's death. It's made in honor of Matt Bartosik in 2003. It was really a guy I looked up to. He had just turned pro. This was Debbie's son, and man, was just making waves. And down in Gatorback, Florida, had an unfortunate accident and passed away there. But Miss Debbie didn't stop at that. We've highlighted that a little bit before. She could have just stayed down and said, "Woe is me," but instead she tried to take and make a foundation and make one. She did indeed, and pour right back into the racing community. So in 2005, she formed this nonprofit in Matt's memory. And the mission of it is to advocate and support the protection, education, and safety of riders involved in ATV racing events. So she's at all the motocross races and also supports other racing as well. But they're there. They have the ejection helmet systems. She also, something really cool that they're bringing back for their third year in a row, is their contract with Resilient Performance and Jim Bowie. They offer free physical therapy there at the tracks for everyone, not just the riders, but mechanics, whomever. It's free. They usually have 2 to 3 of them over there set up at the 88 Live to Ride JB Racing trailer. So it's just free of charge. I mean, this comes at a heavy cost for the 88 Live to Ride Foundation, but fortunately, they've been able to raise the funds to do that, and they want to continue to do that. But all the money that they get for their nonprofit, she basically pours right back into the sport. Most of that comes by way of the auction that takes place at Loretta Lynn's. But you can also donate to them directly. You can go to 88 Live to Ride Inc. at gmail.com and reach out to Miss Debbie there. She is also working on getting their website back up and running, so you can, just click a donate now button as well. So again, it's a nonprofit that anybody can donate to. You can make a one-time donation or multiple times, or if you want to donate items to be sold at the auction, she welcomes that as well. And I will assure you that everything that is done is for good. I mean, you can look at the reason why this foundation was formed in the first place, and you can kind of know the heart of Miss Debbie. So I'm just honored that she would want to partner with us and enable us to go to races, to continue this podcast. So thank you to Debbie and 88 Live to Ride.
Yeah, buddy. So thank you to her and all her support. It was cool to visit with her a little bit at Moto Church there at Pine Lake this past year. And so just like you say, I think the world of Miss Debbie. Like you said, Mitch, experienced something that no parent should ever have to go through, and she used that as motivation to impact the lives of so many people over the last almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's awesome. So But one of the other guys we want to highlight is RJR, Ryland Johnson Racing, and Ryland was a pain in my side for a long time because Ryland's a little younger than us here in the Frog, but had the opportunity to kind of start a little business, and he started making bumpers and grab bars, and that has turned into throttle covers and pegs and heel guards and frame gusset kits, and even sponsoring some pro GNCC riders, to now he's building custom quads and is really, kind of making a splash there in the GNCC world. And so we've been friends with Ryland and his family for a long time. You have as well.
Absolutely.
Ryan, you've known him for a long time as well too. So when we started the podcast, he was one of the first ones that was really encouraging and said, this is what we need. I mean, we don't talk every day or anything like that, but we talk regular, and he's like, hey, what about this? What about this? And so he wanted to jump on board. He's also a big advocate of Ryne. He loves Ryne. And because he said, well, Daniel, you and Mitch will get to talking about stuff. And then Ryne will go, wait. And we were talking about it before we hit record, but in one of our previous episodes, we were talking about a 400EX, and Ryne, kind of interrupted and go, wait, that's the air-cooled four-stroke. And it's like, oh, yeah, I probably should have said that. So anyways, RJR, they're doing all kinds of good stuff over there. You can check them out at rylandjohnsonracing.com. But he has jumped on board. He's going to be one of our year-long sponsors this year, helping us out. And so we want to give him some love. And he's also going to be making a little splash in the EDT world. So
buddy,
got more to come. That's one of the little things up the sleeve. But
I was about to ask about the sleeve.
Yeah. I got that one up the sleeve too. So you can't show everything. This is like episode 1 of season 2. This is our first heat race of the year. So you can't show everyone else what you've got because then they already know what's coming in the main. So you got to keep a few things up the sleeve.
Like he'd be a good card player or something.
Yeah, I'm actually terrible.
Hence why he's got like a long sleeve T-shirt on and a hoodie. I mean, this dude's got sleeves on sleeves up here. You can't see it.
Yeah.
Ryne
what if I had a
any
tattoo
sleeves
that was
on.
a sleeve too?
Oh,
that would be sick, bro.
And then we could never reveal what's going on.
That's right.
We would literally always have something up our sleeve. Son of Thunder over here, he's not got any sleeves on. He's trying to show us his guns. So he doesn't have anything up his sleeves. But no, I think one reason that Ryland probably appreciates Ryne a lot, because even though you and I are just kind of wide open and we don't really think about what we're saying, we just say and then think later. Ryan's more of a thinker and then a sayer. So, when this man speaks up, he's got something good to say. So Ryland probably really appreciates that. And you were highlighting that, Ryland being a little bit younger than us, this dude knows more about a quad than any of the three of us in the room will ever know about a quad.
Oh, yeah.
He was born on one. Dude has extreme knowledge. He really helped turn the corner for me as I went back to the EDT racing world as far as setup. He has some incredible ideas on how to make a quad go. So thank you, RJR, for stepping up and helping us out. I actually got to test his first set of Nerf bars that he made. They're incredible. There's nothing out there that even compares to them. They're freaking awesome. His sway bar that he made is nice as well. There's a couple of them out there floating around. People want him to keep producing that, but he is, he's a busy man. So we'll just see. Everything that I have tested of his is next to none. It's great, great products.
Yeah, he builds top of the line quality products. Got to visit with him and his awesome wife Jamie a little bit Friday. They were actually heading to a little race yesterday, something that Ryland said, I opened my mouth and it was like a little team race deal. And he said, I've been trying to get out of this for months now. He said, but open my mouth and I'm a man of my word, so I'm going to do this little team race. And Jamie's like, I'm just excited to see what happens, So they had the whole family with them. They've got a new little baby, and so that they were all in the car. So I got to visit with all of them. But excited for Ryland and really really excited for his business and how well it's doing. And so we're excited to have that. And then one other guy I want to mention is David Wortham. David Wortham over at Chief Motorsports, LLC. He's in the EDT world. They do some graphics and all kinds of cool stuff.
He goes to the GNCC world as well.
Does.
I mean, his roots are EDT, but he GNCCs and Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interject.
I was getting there, but that's kind of the heart and soul of, GNCC is Indiana, West Virginia, that area. And that's where David and his crew is from. And so he's a big part of our guy, Dylan Cruisenberry. And they also are really big into EDT Church.
Yes.
Yeah. When I'd first met David, they had been listeners and he wanted to get involved. So followed up with him and he's like, yeah, man, we want to help out where we can. Big shout out to Chief Motorsports as well.
In their graphic design, resume building, different things like that. We utilized him this last year for making graphics for the 137 machine, and then which eventually became the 88 machine.
Yeah.
In tribute to Matt Bartosik. But yeah, Dave's a great guy. He'll take care of you, and you'll be getting good quality work over there. So, guys, speaking of quality stuff, let's get to the most quality stuff there is, okay? Let's get over to the book of John. Boom. Yes, the explosions go. Welcome to the new year. That was hey, it sounds like we have a soundboard. Boom.
Sorry,
shakalaka.
no, my phone is connected to my computer.
Sorry, that was great.
We're sitting here. We all got a computer, a cup of coffee, and a microphone in front of us. And Emily had texted me and just said, "Hey, good morning. I hope everything's going okay." So I just typed back, "Happy New Year," and then my computer starts. Fireworks come up on the screen.
Hey, do that more often. That was a great intro to the book of John.
I love it.
Book of John, chapter 5, Gentlemen.
I love it.
Let's go
there
with it.
I'm pumped. Again, just so everyone knows, I know I'm reading from the NLT. Your NLT. Okay.
Ryan's NLT. You got
NLT.
this train rolling on NLT.
All right.
So enjoy it.
John chapter 5, verses 1 through 15. Let's go.
Let's go with it. Who's going to roll with it? Come on with it. Let's go.
Jesus heals a lame man. Afterwards, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holidays. Holy days. Not a holiday.
Holy day, holiday.
We just don't have Happy New Year. See what's on my...
I love it.
Inside the city, near the sheep gate, was the pool of Bethsaida, with 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. One of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, he asked, "Would you like to get well?" "I can't, sir," the sick man said, "for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me." Jesus told him, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." Instantly, the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. But this miracle happened on the Sabbath, so the Jewish leaders objected. They said to the man who was cured, "You can't work on the Sabbath. The law doesn't allow you to carry that sleeping mat." But he replied, "The man who healed me told me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" "Who said such a thing as that?" they demanded. The man didn't know, for Jesus had disappeared into the crowd. But afterward, Jesus found him in the temple and told him, "Now you are well, so stop sinning, or something even worse may happen to you." Then the man went and told the Jewish leaders that it was Jesus who had healed him.
All right, let's break this down, because I have heard this story over. Oh, Jesus heals the. Oh, great, woo, and you just move on to the next thing. But there is, I've got a solid, page here of small font notes from this thing. It's not just Jesus heals this guy. Hey, yippee-ki-yay, let's high five and roll on. But so let's go back to the beginning. That's the pool of
Bethsaida.
Talking about at the holiday.
The
That was my bad on that.
Well, there was okay, we can go there. So there were 3 big holidays that the Jewish tradition celebrated. It was the Feast of Tabernacles, Pentecost, and Passover. Okay. So those were the 3 big holidays, if you will. Okay. But here, this pool, okay, the belief was that the disturbance was caused by an angel in the first person into the pool after the water moved or bubbled or rippled or whatever, would be healed from any illness or sickness. Okay,
so this was a pool that all the sick people would go to and be like, this is my chance.
This is my yeah, they would just hang out there. And so I could just see all these people like looking down. And so when I have heard this story, I've always pictured it like there's steps going down. It's like a big square, if you will. And there's steps going down to this little hot tub. The way I've always seen it, you know, and there's all these people just sitting there and they're just looking
to come on.
Yeah, waiting for, you know, a little fart bubble to come up or something, you know, and they're all just sitting there. And then when it does, I feel like it's just like one person, like in Spoons, if you've ever played Spoons with cards, like one person just casually tries to dip a toe in, and everybody's like, wait, what? And just chaos. You know, and there's one guy, he's built him a rope swing, and he just swings in and cannonballs into the pool. Like, that's how I envision this. I know I'm way off. But I kind of did a little digging here, guys. And this was like a pool. Like, this was, like, you could swim in this thing.
Okay.
Is what I'd read. And so the belief was when the water moved, get in there and you'll be healed, okay? Now, I was listening to a little podcast talking about this, and it said that King Herod at the time, had built this water system, okay, to supply his palace. And this water system, his palace set on the other side of Jerusalem from kind of where this spot was at, okay? And the system was connected to all the other water systems there in Jerusalem, okay? Whenever Herod would open up the system in the palace for whatever reason, because of the way it was built, air would enter the system, and it's going to try to find its way to the surface the quickest way possible. And so I kind of think of this, if you go into your house, like Ryne, we're here in the Frog. If we were to go downstairs and, you know, Mitch and I are staying, like looking in a different toilet, if you turned on the water or flushed another toilet in the house, like the water just kind of moves a little bit because it's part of a system, okay? Well, that's the thing. Anytime the pool of Bethesda, that pool over yonder, it's set on top of this water system. That's how it was fed, was through this kind of natural spring water system. And anytime Herod would open up the system for whatever reason, brushing his teeth, you know, filling up the ice maker, whatever it was, flushing the toilet, the bubbles would, you know, air would enter the system, and it's, you know, air's going to try to come out wherever it can. So I just think it's funny that this whole thing was built on, hey, whenever you see bubbles, and it's like, and no one ever, you know, kind of put it together. You know what? Every time Herod flushes the toilet, this thing bubbles. You know, that was never a thought. You know, and I thought that was so funny. But that was kind of the reason behind why these people are gathered there. Because anytime you dive into God's word, you got to look at the context and the details. Like, was it just like someone threw a rock in there and everybody's like, it's moving, and they jumped in, or like, why did it happen? So according to my digging, that's what I found. So
can I throw a
curveball? Go on with it.
I'm asking, is there anything in Scripture that, like, you know, kind of like says that wasn't going on? That nobody was being healed once the water was moving or anything? I'm asking.
You know, I was thinking the same thing, and I dug into a couple different commentaries, like, were people magically healed or whatever? Or was it one of those things where maybe there's and that's what, I don't know if you got charged to stay at this place or whatever. You know, maybe this was the religious leaders. They would tell some guy, hey, come limping in. Pay attention, because at 6:03 a.m., that's when Herod goes to the bathroom. So you get down close to the water and jump in real quick, and then you come out walking. You know, I don't know. Or were people actually here? You know, Mitch, well, I couldn't.
I'm going to go a little bit different slant with this, guys. I mean, around the context that y'all are going, but don't we as humans, if something, you know, if we're just striving for something, all right, if it's a physical ailment, sometimes we're willing to try whatever. But just heal this up, you know, fix me. And so whether it was or it wasn't fixing people, you know, the rumor mill might have been like, hey, you can go do this, whether there was something in the background or whatnot.
What do I have to lose?
What do I have to lose by going and getting this water? So this was a normal joining place for us. But we're going to see one person actually fix his problem, not only his physical problem, but we're going to see when Jesus reapproaches him that Jesus says, I came here to make you spiritually right and cleanse you of your sins. So he's really going to find the source of the issue. But the other cool thing that I thought of is you think about Jesus' ministry, and we've talked about that there's no place that he doesn't go. What an opportune deal. You know, you've got people who are probably those people who just, what defines them is their disability or their inability to do something. They're stuck in this cycle of, I'm sick, or I'm this diagnosis, or I'm that. You know, usually those kind of people kind of bring us down, right? And you're like, I don't want to, that's kind of joy sucking. I'm not trying to say that we should avoid people who are hurting, but you know, that's like, you usually just don't go and hang out with those people because you want to go to people who are encouraging and uplifting. But we see that's where Jesus sought out to go. He's like, I'm going to go to these people and I'm going to make a difference, not only in the physical, the temporal life, but I'm going to make an eternal change. And that's the same way he does with us. So you can look at us, even we might not have any physical disability. Each one of us born on this earth, though, we're spiritually cut off from God, and we search for things in life to plug and fill that, right? Yep. The well, if you will, the pool at Bethesda. We just try to fill that with whatever to try to feel better, you know, or fill that hole in our life when what we really need is Jesus.
Right.
So I told you I was going to take a little bit different route with that, but anyway, go ahead.
No. I think it's awesome because that kind of leads into my deal too. You're talking about, you know, when you see someone that, you know, maybe down or has a condition, whatever it may be. In my experience, I say, hey man, what's going on? It's like they automatically have a response that's, here's my condition, here's why I need to justify why I am who I am and in this condition, you know? And so every time I've read this passage, Jesus comes up to this guy and he asks, would you like to be healed? And I think, he just starts rattling off the excuses, and that's how I've read this, as excuses. Well, one of my goals for 23 is be a little more compassionate. And later we find out that this guy didn't know who Jesus was, so he's just hanging out by the pool. Some guy comes up to him and goes, "Want to be healed?" And he just says, "And like, I'd love to be. That would be great, but I've had this condition for 38 years. I'm going to come back to 30. This guy, like I said, he doesn't know who Jesus was. He was simply going through the rhythm of reply of how he responds to people, because that's how he's been doing it for so long, you know. So instead of me reading this as this guy just complaining, but like, yeah, man, I'd love to get healed, but I can't get down there. He's just like, well, you know, here's why I'm in this condition, is because blah, 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 blah. So it's kind of just a different view. But I think it's interesting, and I'm going to pitch this over to you two. Why does it say specifically 38 years? Like, why 38? Like, why didn't it just go, this guy had been suffering with a condition? Why does it get so specific? I'm baiting a hook.
I'll state the obvious, maybe you know, for a dramatic effect, but it is impressive to me. I mean, it's not that it would matter if it was 18 months or 38 years, but still to think people had been seeing him, kids growing up, everybody had been seeing him for 38 years. This guy, there was no mistaking this guy was paralyzed.
So maybe you know, and I'm setting up dominoes here, but maybe that was something that Jesus kind of comes in, and maybe this guy, you know, he's kind of a little bit further away from the pool. Like, and it's one thing, like, why did Jesus go to this guy? There's lots of people around him. But like you say, Ryan, maybe because he had been there for so long, or you could just tell, like, he's a seasoned, you know, watch the water move guy, you know, whatever. Well, anytime I see numbers like that, like, I always get curious, because things are in God's word the way they are for a reason. Okay? And I'm like, why 38? Why 38? So I kind of did some digging. The Israelites wandered in the desert how long?
40 years.
40 years. Okay, well, if you dig into Deuteronomy, they spent 2 years building the temple. And so they actually wandered for 38 years. And so I'm like, And even the commentary, they didn't have a solid answer, but they're like, maybe this is a connection to those, you know, because John, here's the deal. John didn't write this story, this passage, this thing that he witnessed and heard about and put down. Like, he didn't write that for Daniel, Mitch, and Ryne. Like, he wrote it for just the next generation, you know,
right.
and then the next generation passed it on and passed it on, passed it. And so these people would have known the Israelite story. So they knew that they had wandered for, 38 years. And so the commentary was, like the Israelites, this man's longing and suffering also was about to come to an end. He had been there for 38 years. They had wandered for 38 years. Like, hey, he'd been there for 38 years. So I'm wondering if, like, the first people to read this letter of John, if when they read 38, they kind of got excited because they're like, ooh,
38, we know that number.
The last time something 38 happened, like, God showed up in a big way. So that's just kind of a neat plug. I spent way too long explaining that could this be a throwback to Deuteronomy? I don't know. The commentaries are like, it could be. We're not real for sure. But I'm telling you, anytime numbers show up, like, pay attention, or names show up, like, those are there for a reason. So
I like it. I like that the point that both of you guys have. But what's cool about 38 years, he's the guy he didn't get sick or paralyzed 38 minutes ago. It's been a long time coming. And so all the people going to the pool, they knew, well, we can get ahead of that guy.
Oh, yeah.
So it would have been a testimony to all those people too. Mm-hmm. They're like, yeah, we've been, maybe this person's been going for a week. Maybe this person's been going 5 years. So they're like, yeah, we know we can beat that guy. It's not a big deal.
He's been up there for years.
So it's going to be a testimony to them. It's like, wait, this guy's just been laying there, like he has to get brought here and laid down, and now he's picking up his mat and he's walking. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty awesome. And you mentioned compassion.
Yes.
So what we see here is Jesus' compassion. He moves towards need, not comfort, towards broken-hearted sinners, not the self-righteous. He listens to the guy compassionately. He knew him perfectly, and he was moved by the misery that he felt. And he's like, your life's going to be forever changed now. And then, again, we see him with his spoken word change things. And I think this is the third miracle that's documented here in the book of John. And, this isn't going to be an exhausting list in the book of John of all the miracles that Jesus did. But, this is one that John felt was worth noting so that we can know that Jesus is the Messiah.
Just continuing to go along with that, like the way Jesus moves in the way that I think, and I'm going to lump myself into this group, church people, but Jesus goes up to him and says, hey, do you want to be healed? He doesn't, and this, I'm going to read this straight out of my commentary because I thought, so good, and I'll mess it up. He did not trouble to read the man a lecture on the useless superstition of waiting on the water to be moved. I love that. His one desire was to help, and so he healed the man who had waited so long. I'm like, how many times do we feel like, God's moving in our life? We're doing a good thing, but we're like, hey, you got to clean yourself up. You've got to come to my church. You've got to do all these other things, and then God's going to move.
So we turn it into a religious system, which can go into our next little point of conversation. But I want to step back just a little bit. Another reason he might have chosen this man too, so no one would get confused that it was the water that healed him.
Yes.
You understand? Because they're like, there's no way that guy's getting in the water. Right. And everyone would know that, so it would kind of squash out this whole deal that the water is what healed him. That's another point. But, okay, all right, let's segue off that in just a little bit. We see that the second part of this is that this guy, you're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. And the Jewish religious leaders see this taking place. And what do? They bring out their religious book. That we got to have religion. You're not supposed to be working on this day, right? And
you read my notes over there?
No, I am not. But I mean, this is what it's saying here, guys.
So two things: did the religious leaders that call this guy out for that, were they standing over in the corner and watch Jesus? They're like, look at. And they see this little conversation go on, and then this guy just jumps up with a mat, and Jesus disappears. Because it's crowd. Did they watch this whole thing take place, or did they just casually, they're just doing their religious leader deal and see this guy carrying around a mat? But either way, whichever one of those two things happened, instead of like, holy moly, that's a miracle, what happened? How are you doing that? They instantly jump to the rules.
They missed it. Very
good, Ryan. You can't do that. Hey, you can't do that. Hey, it's Sunday. Jesus, I'm sure there's so many times in Scripture, and especially in my life, I'm not talking about your guys' life, that I miss it, Ryan. And I just see Jesus sitting up there, and he just puts his hands in his head and goes, every time. He missed it, you know, and that's what happens again here, Mitch.
Yeah.
So good.
So, I mean, what we're going to see, and this theme is going to start taking place more often in John, is that what this book is about Jesus. And Jesus is not about a religious system. He's not about follow step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and then I will make you right with me. It's about a relationship with him. And he is going to reveal that time and time again, because the religious leaders of that time, hey, speaking of that, I started watching The Chosen a little bit. Super cool.
Yes.
Finally heated you. I'm really enjoying it.
Gives you a little perspective.
It gives you a little bit of perspective. So The Chosen, guys, it's out there. It's good.
It's free. Download the app. You can watch them all. Go ahead.
Yep, absolutely. The Chosen.
Not a sponsor. Should be.
It should, yeah. But I think that is important, and I think that's why a lot of people get turned away from Christianity in the first place, is because of religion or religious system. And how many people miss Jesus because of these religious leaders at that point in time? They're like, oh, I got to follow these guys to be right with God. And Jesus is like, no, they've got it all twisted.
Not a system. It's a relationship.
It's not a system. It's a relationship. And we're going to see him, you know, he reapproaches the man. So he's healed the guy physically. He didn't necessarily reveal himself to him. So he's fixed the physical problem the guy had. But when he approaches him later on, he says, now you're well, so stop sinning, or something even worse may happen to you. He's like, you know, you have physically struggled for 38 years with paralysis and haven't been able to get around. He said, but what is more important is that you attempt to live your life as sin-free because of the relationship that you've had with me, because something worse will be coming in the future, and that would be that you would have eternal separation from God.
Okay, so is verse 14, like, is it just a blanket, you know, just like you're saying, Mitch, like, hey, go and sin no more, because if you don't, like, there's eternal death thing could be yours in the future if you don't, or, because I like to stir the pot, is it more like this guy is strolling around the temple carrying his mat in like this arrogant manner? Like, yeah, I'm healed, suckers. Y'all thought I couldn't do it, and I'm doing it. And like he misses that it was Jesus that healed him, because he doesn't know. So is he just strolling around? I got my mat. Look at me. Look at me. Like, is it that? Like, he's just going up to everyone that's passed him by, and like, is it one of those deals that Jesus just, you know, approaches him in the passionate way that Jesus is, to kind of teach him, like, hey, man, as a follower of Christ, this is not the manner we want to live by.
Okay, all right. So, yes.
Go ahead.
I like your point. There is actually a point in my note that goes right along with that.
Okay.
So Jesus' response in this commentary is, I have given you a gift. Yes. So Jesus has given you a gift. You haven't done it. It's free. It came first before my command. You didn't earn it. You weren't good enough for it. I chose you freely, and I healed you. Now live in the power. You live in the humility of knowing that this is a free gift, and grace is a free gift. It isn't something that is done or earned by a religious system or following a set of rules.
It's less me and more we. Like, this wasn't you, bro. So my youth pastor comes out, or did Jesus take the situation and he sees this going on, and then he goes up to him and he's like, hey, man, knock it off. You know, I caused your suffering to go away, and if you don't cool the jets, bro, I like to think of it like my mom growing up was like, listen, I brought you into this world, I can take you out. Yeah. So I'm like, was Jesus, because he disappears into the crowd, so I could just see this guy just strutting around like, I got my mat, look at me, and he's just strutting around, and then Jesus just kindly slides up behind him and he's like, 24 hours to cool the jets, it all comes to an end. Like, knock it off, young man. Like, I will put you back by that pool. You know, I think that may be a little sacrilegious, you know, but I don't know. I like to have fun with God. But regardless, I think he missed it. You know, and Jesus, you know, again, chance after chance after chance, Jesus extends grace. He has that compassion, and he's, look, bro, you've got a gift. Don't ruin it. Oh man, good stuff. I loved it. I love digging it. Like I said, I've heard this story over and over and over, and I can even remember in Sunday school, like having the little. Did y'all use flannel graph, felt graph, the little flannel board? It was literally like a green sheet of flannel, and there was little flannel cutout figurines. Y'all have no idea what I'm talking
Ryan
about.
and I have the same look going on right now.
Yeah,
Flannel graph.
Flannel.
Someone hit us a message and tell me that you know what a flannel graph is. Because like this was growing up. Maybe it was just I grew up in a weird
Ryan,
church.
what's your guess? What's a flannel graph?
It was like the teacher could tell a story and she would put the different characters up on the board.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe like that. I mean, do you stick things to it?
Yeah.
A good behavior chart.
Yeah, that's what I'm pointing at because I'm not sure. You can put
Ryan,
stars
according to
on
that chart, you've been misbehaving.
No. We did, Ryan. Yes.
I know
we
you
know what
did.
this is. A felt board because
Felt. It's not flannel. Felt.
Yeah, I can get past the flannel shirt.
Yeah.
Type thought process.
Yeah, a felt board. You know,
So
because
Jesus
you
is
can Velcro the story.
Jesus is
Gotcha.
wearing a flannel
Got it.
shirt and got an axe over his
Yeah.
arm, going to cut down some trees.
Hey, did they have flannel back then?
I don't know. I doubt it. I don't think so.
Yeah,
Felt.
flannel's the
Sorry.
thing they got.
This is the story of my life. Anyways,
Hey, so
Yeah.
you know this goes right along with the limbs and the ease ups, and you know, hey, it's
it's
Daniel.
LEM.
So the pod, we're going to
Easy
put
up.
out a Daniel dictionary
That's
for
fine.
those of you who need it. It's
Route Mushmore.
Route Mushmore.
Mount Rushmore. Yeah, that's a good one from 22.
Yeah,
That's
22.
the
Recap.
that's going to be the title of the book. Route Mushmore.
Brap.
I just want to mention something that Daniel, as y'all was talking about the pool and everything, you know,
Mhm.
and something I've been thinking about ever since you said it, though, you know, I think about the opportunity of accepting Jesus. You know, you said something earlier that you said about being healed and all that. You know, what do you got to lose?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I think that applies to. I mean, you have nothing to lose in accepting Jesus, but everything to gain.
Everything to gain. That is
Everything.
exactly right.
You know, I mean, there's absolutely, you know, as we work through that, I mean, I think that's a foundation for this podcast.
It absolutely
I
a
mean, we have
foundation.
nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Right.
Yeah. All we're losing is a little bit of time, but man, holy cow.
We should use that as our marketing kit. What do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose?
But it's not about us. It's about Jesus.
That's right. Well, and I think, you know, from an outsider looking in, guys, just my 2 cents, my thoughts here. What's our infatuation with Jesus, with this book, with this word that's endured forever? As I ponder that question a little bit in my mind, this is a book that has outlasted anything. There's enough information in here for the most simple-minded person to know how to have a relationship with Christ. Yet, those theologians who have greater understanding than I will ever have spend their lifetime studying this book, and everyone in between. So if you're not in the Word, man, I challenge you to, because there's blessing in it. We talk about it as we go through some of these studies. We've been through them many times, and we've learned something, but every time there's something new to learn, and something that not only is a knowledge thing, but something that will change the way you act and walk and how you impact your world. So that's ultimately how you change your world. You change the world around you, is you have that relationship with Christ. You spend time in this Word, and as He reveals truth to you, you just live it out. And the blessing that comes from that, man, I would just like to just share some of those one day, because they're great. Y'all, got any other closing thoughts or words, guys?
Man, we got some good stuff coming in the next couple of episodes. All this season, man. Whether it's interviews or the little something we got up our sleeves, man, it's going to be a good year. Thank you for giving. You know, there's someone out there listening for allowing us to keep doing this, and for all of our sponsors jumping on board. Plan to just keep growing and spreading the gospel.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Again, reach out to us on social media. Subscribe, like our stuff, message us. We're open. We're going to respond to you, whether that's knowing how to study the Word, or you're wanting to get connected with one of our sponsors, or just words of encouragement. Man, we enjoy those, and those fuel us on as well. So don't hesitate to subscribe to our stuff. Leave us comments on Apple. I guess that'd be more of a review than a comment. But anyway, I guess that will kind of wrap it up here for Season 2, Episode 1, guys. So have a good one. Thanks to our listeners.